It's 11:30 p.m. You're lying in bed, the lights are off, but the blue light of your phone is hitting your face. You weren't planning to buy anything, you were just scrolling. But then an ad pops up. It's that thing, that new tech gadget, those shoes, that piece of gear you vaguely wanted yesterday. Suddenly, you want it right now. The friction is gone. You double-click for Apple Pay, the little check mark appears, you feel a rush of excitement, and 3 days later, a box arrives that you already regret buying. If that cycle of late-night dopamine hits followed by buyer's remorse sounds like your life, you need to watch this video. My name is Simba, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychological warfare being waged against your bank account every single day by trillion-dollar companies. If you're someone who feels like your paycheck mysteriously evaporates on stuff you don't even care about a week later, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, I'm going to give you a weapon to fight back. It's a simple mental circuit breaker that uses basic math to kill impulse spending dead in its tracks. Look, here's the thing. And I need you to really hear this because it's the foundation of everything else we're going to talk about today. You are not weak. You are overpowered. There's a common financial assumption that impulse spending is a character flaw, that if you buy things you don't need, you just lack discipline. That is absolute nonsense. You are bringing a butter knife to a nuclear gunfight. On the other side of that screen are thousands of the smartest engineers, data scientists, and behavioral psychologists at Google, Amazon, and Meta. Their entire job, the only reason they get paid those massive salaries, is to figure out exactly what triggers your brain's reward center and remove every single barrier between you and the buy now button. They know that human beings are wired for scarcity. For thousands of years, if you saw a resource, food, tools, you had to grab it now or it might be gone tomorrow. Our brains are evolved to seize immediate opportunities. In 2026, we don't have scarcity of resources, we have an overabundance of them, but you still have that prehistoric brain. When you see that flash sale or that only 3 left in stock notification, your limbic system, the ancient, emotional lizard brain, lights up like a Christmas tree. It dumps dopamine into your system. It feels good to want it. And here's what most people don't realize. The dopamine hit isn't from getting the item. The dopamine hit is from the anticipation of getting it. The moment you click buy, the high starts to fade. The marketers know this. They are hacking your biology to bypass your prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of your brain that asks, can we actually afford this? Or do we actually need a third pair of white sneakers? By the time your logical brain wakes up and realizes what happened, the transaction has already cleared. 2. The tax of impulse. So we know the psychology, we know you're being manipulated, but what is the actual cost? Because I hear people say, Simba, come on, it's just a $40 Amazon purchase here and there. You're being dramatic. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, it is. Those little purchases are a death by 1,000 cuts for your financial future. Let's look at the data. Recent studies on consumer behavior here in the mid-2020s show that the average American spends anywhere from $300 to $450 per month on impulse purchases, things they had absolutely no intention of buying when they woke up that morning. Let's be conservative. Let's say you're pretty disciplined and you only blow $250 a month on random, impulsive stuff. The takeout coffee you didn't need, the app subscription you forgot about, the clothes you'll wear once. $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. Now you might be thinking, okay, $3,000 stings, but it won't bankrupt me. You're right, it won't bankrupt you today, but it's destroying your tomorrow. If you took that same $250 a month, money you were currently setting on fire for a temporary dopamine hit, and you invested it in a boring, low-cost S&P 500 index fund, let's assume an average historical return of about 8% annually. Over 10 years, That impulse spending didn't cost you $30,000, which is just the cash value. No. Because you missed out on the compounding, that impulse habit cost you over $45,000. Stretch it out to 20 years, that habit cost you $142,000. Over a 30-year working career, that little $250 a month habit is robbing your future self of over $350,000. That's not a couple of coffees, guys. That is an entire house in some parts of the country. That is 5 years of retirement freedom gone because you couldn't wait 24 hours to buy the new noise-canceling headphones. When you look at the math like that, impulse spending isn't a little treat. It's financial self-sabotage on a massive scale. 3. The solution, the 72-hour rule. Okay, Samba, the math is terrifying. I get it. But how do I stop? Willpower doesn't work at 11:30 p.m. You're right. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out like gas in a tank. You need a system that doesn't rely on willpower. You need a circuit breaker. Introduce the 72-hour rule. It is tragically simple and incredibly effective. Here is the rule. If you see something you want to buy that costs over, insert your threshold amount here, let's say $100 for this example, and it was not a planned budgeted necessity, you must wait exactly 72 hours before you are allowed to buy it. That's it. You don't say no. You are not allowed to tell yourself no, because that feels like deprivation and your brain will rebel against it. You say, yes, I can have that. In 3 days. You can put it in your online card. You can take a screenshot of it. You can write it down on a sticky note, but you cannot complete the transaction for 72 hours. Why 72 hours? Why 3 days? Because that is roughly the amount of time it takes for the marketing-induced dopamine fog to clear out of your brain. Remember, the marketers are trying to bypass your logical brain. The 72-hour rule forces a cooling-off period that allows your logical brain to catch up. Here's what happens during those 3 days. Day 1, you still really want it. You're annoyed that you have this stupid rule. You might even obsess over it a little bit. That's the dopamine talking. Day 2, the intensity starts to fade. You get busy with work, kids, life. You aren't thinking about the item every second. The urgency, that feeling of, I must have this now, is gone. Day 3, you get the notification on your phone. 72 hours is up. You can buy that thing now. And this is where it gets really interesting. About 80 to 90% of the time, when day 3 rolls around, you will look at that item in your cart and go, I don't really need it. The emotional connection is severed.
You look at it rationally, you realize you'd rather keep the $150 in your bank account than have another gadget sitting on your desk. You close the tab and you move on with your life, $150 richer. But what about the other 10% of the time? If day 3 arrives and you have thought about it logically, checked your budget, realized you can afford it, and you still genuinely want it, then buy it. Buy it without guilt, because now it's not an impulse purchase. It's a considered purchase. You've removed the regret. Part 4. Let's connect this concept with financial arithmetics. Now, I want to tie this back to something else in finance, just because I love it when concepts connect. You might have heard of the Rule of 72 in investing. It's a mental shortcut to calculate how long it takes for an investment to double in value. You take the number 72 and divide it by your annual interest rate. So if you get an 8% return, 72 divided by 8 is 9. Your money doubles every 9 years. Why am I bringing this up? Because every time you use the 72-hour rule to stop an impulse purchase, you are freeing up capital to put into the rule of 72. Let's go back to that $250 a month example. If you use the 72-hour rule and manage to save that $250 instead of spending it on junk, and you invest it at 8%, That $250 you saved this month, in 9 years it will be worth $500. In 18 years it will be worth $1,000. Every time you wait 3 days, you aren't just saving the sticker price of the item, you are saving the future doubled, quadrupled, and octupled value of that money. You are trading a moment of cheap dopamine today for legitimate wealth tomorrow. That is the trade of a mature, financially literate adult. Look, I know it's hard. We live in the most aggressively marketed to society in human history. The entire internet is designed to turn you into a mindless consumer.
But you have to decide what role you want to play in this economy. Do you want to be the prey, the person whose impulses are farmed for profit by giant corporations? Or do you want to be the owner, the person who controls their resources and directs them toward their own goals? The 72-hour rule is the simplest tool I know to take back that control. It costs you nothing, it requires almost no willpower, just a slight delay. Try it for the next 30 days. Set your threshold, maybe it's $50, maybe it's $100. Anything over that amount gets a 3-day timeout. Just try it. If you do, come back to this video and leave a comment telling me how much money you saved. I guarantee you will be shocked at how many things you almost bought that you are so glad you didn't. If this gave you a practical tool you can use today, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and beat the algorithm. Subscribe if you want more financial strategy from Simba, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Stop letting your impulse run your wallet. Use the 72-hour rule. I'll see you in the next video.